A couple of days ago, I made a video talking about Caufield and how there are a lot of GMs that look kind of stupid right now for allowing him to fall to 15th overall in the 2019 NHL draft. In the comment section of that video, there were a lot of people asking me, well, what about Steve Yzerman selecting Moritz Seider 6th overall in 2019? Do you think he is stupid for passing on Caufield? So I figured I would make this quick video to kind of clear things up. I didn't say every single GM that passed on Caufield looks stupid right now. In that video, I said there are definitely some exceptions. Like, I don't think Caufield should have went 1st overall in 2019 or anything. I also said in that video that at the very least, Caufield should have been a top 8 pick, and that's not hindsight is 2020 or anything like that, just because of what he's doing in these playoffs. Heading into that draft, most people knew Caufield was the best pure goal scorer in the class. It was just a matter of his size and if his game would translate and everything like that. I won't get into it too much because, again, I just made a video on this a couple of days ago, but since I was getting so many comments on that video asking me how I feel about Mo Seider and how I feel that Yzerman was one of the GMs to pass on Caufield, I figured I would make this video giving you my thoughts on Seider and the draft pick 2 years later. Just to get this out of the way, I'm extremely happy with the Seider pick 2 years later. I'm probably as happy as you can possibly be with a prospect who hasn't played a single game in the NHL yet. Mo Seider has exceeded expectations everywhere he has played since being drafted 6th overall in 2019. I'm 100% confident that Seider is going to be a cornerstone on the Red Wings blue line for a very long time. I said this in a couple of videos throughout the season, but I really do think that if he played for the Red Wings this past season, he would have been their best defenseman already. I think he is already that good. I'm pretty sure I haven't even made a video just strictly about Seider since he was drafted back in 2019, so now I kind of just want to go over some of the things he has done since being drafted, his performance, some of his achievements, to give the people that may not be all that familiar with him an idea of why myself and so many others are so high on Seider and why he is widely regarded as one of the best NHL affiliated prospects out there right now. Let's just start at the draft itself, because when Steve Yzerman came to the podium and made the pick announcing Mo Seider's name 6th overall, a lot of people were pretty shocked. It's not like he was a completely off the board selection. It's not like he wasn't projected to go in the 1st round or anything like that, but the majority of mock drafts had Seider in the range between 10 and 20, like a fringe lottery pick. When the pick was announced, the first thing Gord Miller on the broadcast said was, "This is the first curveball of the draft." But in an interview after making the selection, Steve Yzerman quickly shut that narrative down. He said, "This pick is not a curveball to us." Basically said, "This is our guy, this is the player we wanted." And anytime your general manager is that confident in a pick, you as a fan should probably be pretty confident as well until proven otherwise. So even though I was extremely surprised like most other people when the pick was made, I never bashed on it. I was always completely okay with the pick because, I mean, I trust Steve Yzerman. He's a great general manager. And looking back at the pick now, like I said earlier in the video, I'm as happy as you can possibly be about a prospect who hasn't played in the NHL yet. His draft plus 1 year, he plays the full season in the American Hockey League for Grand Rapids. Now, heading into the draft, the scouting report on Seider was basically he's already a really good defender, extremely mature and responsible in his own end at such a young age, and he was already very physically mature as well. This is a guy who held his own playing professionally in Germany in his draft year. The knock on Seider was his offensive game, or lack thereof. There didn't seem to be a ton of offensive upside, so he's kind of the opposite of most defensemen you see drafted at the top of a draft who have a ton of offensive talent, but still have to kind of refine their game and mature and become good two-way defensemen. So that all being said, in Seider's draft plus 1 year with Grand Rapids, it was made clear very quickly that he had a lot more offensive talent and offensive upside than he was given credit for heading into the draft. He finished his 2019-20 season in Grand Rapids with 49 games played, 2 goals, 20 assists for 22 points. Those 22 points were the second most points by a defenseman on Grand Rapids that season. The only defenseman with more points was Joe Hicketts. That season, he also had a very impressive showing in the 2020 IIHF World Junior Championships. He had 6 points in 7 games for Germany, and even though the Germans in that tournament were outscored a total of 19-9, Moritz Seider wasn't on the ice for a single even strength goal against in the entire tournament. So his draft plus 1 year, it went great. The offensive upside being shown at the American Hockey League level and in the World Juniors, and obviously his defensive game and his physicality came as advertised. So now we're at his draft plus 2 year, which was this past season, 2020-2021. He played in the Swedish Hockey League for Rögle, and I'm sorry to my Swedish viewers, I probably butchered butchered that name. That's definitely not how you pronounce it. So like I said, his draft plus one season was really good, but this past season in the SHL is really where Seider took that jump to like, okay, this guy is special. He could really be something. Seider finished his season in the SHL with 41 games played, 7 goals, 21 assists for 28 points, the second highest scoring defenseman on the team. The only other defenseman with more points than Seider this past season on Rogel was Eric Jelinas, who was his defensive partner. And by the way, Rogel was one of the best teams in the SHL this past season. These were not empty stats. He wasn't playing sheltered minutes. He was playing top pairing minutes on one of the best teams in Sweden's top professional league. And referring to what I said earlier in the video about how heading into the draft Seider wasn't seen as a defenseman with a ton of offensive upside, well, his 41 points in the SHL this past season was good for a .683 points per game in the regular season, and going by points per game with a minimum of 10 games played in that season, it was the second highest scoring season ever for a U20 defenseman in SHL history, and he just barely fell short of breaking the record, which is held by Rangers prospect Nils Lundqvist, who holds that record at a .69 points per game in one of his U20 seasons. That is absolutely incredible, again, for a defenseman who wasn't known for his offense heading into the draft, and on top of his amazing regular season, he was fantastic for Rogel in the playoffs as well. He had 5 points in 13 games. He was a huge part in that team, making it all the way to the championship but falling short. It really would have been hard for Mo Seider to have a better draft plus 2 season, and on top of his good offensive numbers that he put up all year, he was still stout defensively, had fantastic underlying metrics, and as a teenager in a professional league, he was obliterating grown men. It seemed like there was a highlight clip going around on Twitter every day of Mo Seider just absolutely leveling somebody. Oh yeah, and I can't forget, Seider also looked really good in the World Championships that took place a couple of weeks ago. He was a half point per game player for Germany through 10 games in that tournament. So that's pretty much going to do it, highlighting what Mo Seider has done since being selected 6th overall by the Red Wings in 2019, and to answer the questions I've been getting in the comment section of the Caufield video, I'm very happy with the Mo Seider pick, and I don't think Steve Yzerman is one of the GMs that looks stupid for passing on Caufield. This video was basically just one long drawn out answer, and it was probably the longest answer to a question that I've ever given, but I figured it was time to make a video about Seider. And again, I can't stress this enough, I know it is still early, we barely know anything about the majority of the players from the 2019 draft class. Most of them haven't stepped foot on NHL ice just yet, but it is still fun to speculate, and it's completely okay to be hyped up about a player who hasn't played in the NHL yet. And listen, as a Red Wings fan, I haven't had many good things to talk about lately, so let me have this.